January 2009, the world was gifted with Taken, a film release which would leave a monumental imprint on cinema. Directed by Pierre Morel and starring Liam Neeson, Taken was released on a budget of $25 million. To contextualise the success of the film, these costs were recouped in its opening night and has earned its place as one of the most impactful thriller movies of the 21st century. As with all of our Nightmare Feels, there will be major spoilers ahead. As a quick overview to bring anyone up to speed who hasn't already seen Taken, the film is a telling of a complex father-daughter relationship between Brian Mills and Kim, a bond for many that is unique and has its own special distinction amongst modern-day family setups. Brian has gracefully split from his wife Lenore, but is desperately trying hard to remain a staple in Kim's life, especially throughout her teenage years. Brian and Kim now live separately, so any time spent together, even driving lessons for example, is quality time in Brian's eyes and worth savouring. Now, many of you fathers out there who have daughters can probably appreciate those natural protective instincts that you have for your daughter, but Brian, being an ex-CIA operative, takes this to a whole new level. Being 16, Kim has finished her exams for the school year and wants to travel around Europe with her friend Amanda for the summer, specifically to follow their favourite band, which is touring various venues, with the first being in Paris. With some initial resistance to the idea, Brian reluctantly gives in and lets Kim go, in a bid to show her that he's letting her have her own space, grow as a young adult, and hoping that Kim can realise this and, on a return to the US, they become closer. The trip turns into a living nightmare as Kim and a friend are taken captive by some dodgy looking men. The film follows Brian, who attempts to find Kim and bring her back safely to America. Now that we're all filled in on the plot, let's get into why this film isn't actually this glorified goodies versus baddies Hollywood action feature which puts American secret agents on an impenetrable pedestal. This film is about a much more serious, dark, real world catastrophe which is reproduced every single day in the vast majority of countries. Of course, I'm referring to human trafficking and modern slavery. Here's a statistic for you. Globally, the human trafficking industry makes $150 billion every single year. Every single one of these dollars is at the expense of a human being whose life is completely shattered as a result of those who are involved in this trade. The psychological damage must be catastrophic to those who somehow manage to exit this industry if they're lucky enough. Pierre Morel has crafted some really intense, authentic scenes in Taken, which I want to talk about and analyse as to why they're worse than Nightmare Fuel. They're actually an extension of reality, which very few of us see, but it's something that's going on constantly right now as we speak. Amanda and Kim are marked at an airport by lookouts who are the first link in this very long chain. The girls naively share a taxi with a stranger who finds out where they're staying, and later that evening, while Kim's on the phone to her dad, she sees Amanda being manhandled by a henchman. The sequence of events that proceed from this scene are unimaginable. With Brian's experience of the world, he tells his daughter that she's also going to be taken. There's no sugarcoating this. Kim has to accept the reality of her situation and prepare herself to shout out all of her trafficker's features so that Brian has some shred of information to go off in his search for her. Once Kim has been abducted, Brian takes all of the information he has to Sam, his old retired work colleague and a big friend of the family's. Sam reignites his guy in the chair persona and begins to reel off information about this particular organisation who has snatched Kim and Amanda. Their specialty is trafficking young Eastern women by offering them minimum wage jobs in the West before getting them addicted to drugs and turning them into prostitutes. However, they've now turned their attention to young women who are already travelling because it saves on shipping costs. And based on Sam's analysis, Brian has a 96-hour window from the moment she was grabbed to never finding her again. Now, this conversation, it just knocks me for six every time I watch this film. These women are human beings and they're just seen as business transactions where the kidnapping process is being refined to be more economically advantageous. It's just sickening. And if you're a parent, there must be nothing worse in the world than being privy to this phone call. I mean, just look at Lenore's reaction while this conversation's taking place. She's in absolute bits, and the way that she shrieks is just horrifying. The hooks of the organisation run deep through Paris. Brian meets up with a former work colleague, Jean-Claude, who is now with the French intelligence. There's just something off from Jean-Claude from the start, and his whole demeanour is set up to discourage Brian from pursuing any leads he has. It's later discovered that Jean-Claude is corrupt to the core and is colluding with the traffickers. He's receiving bribes to keep the authorities quiet. Again, this is something that's absolutely prevalent in real life, where these criminals are receiving protection from many people in high places because the industry is just so lucrative and money talks. Now, the next scene that I want to talk about is absolutely brutal to watch, and for obvious reasons, I'm going to be very selective about what I show on screen here, but Kim's trail leads Brian to a building site late at night, which has been basically turned into a makeshift brothel. There's a queue of men that's formed outside of this converted storage container, and inside are curtains that divide up the room. Brian enters the container and begins to look around, completely unfazed by the pure evil that's taken place, by probably witnessing countless disturbing things during his CIA career. But as he's taking out all of the pimps that are surrounding the container, he spots a girl behind a curtain who looks the spitting image of Kim, coupled with the fact that Kim's distinctive denim jacket that she always wears is draped on the back of the chair. Your whole world must stop at this point. As a parent, Brian must have had massively conflicting feelings during this moment, because he's potentially found his daughter, but he's also about to see her in the absolute state that she's in. He turns the girl's head and it's not Kim, it's just another young girl just like him who is being trafficked into this disgusting industry as cattle. Brian begins to question her. Who gave this to you? Where did you get this jacket? The girl proceeds to whisper to Brian, I'm good. An empty line of rehearsed dialogue that's being forced on her by her traffickers to keep the client happy. She can barely register what he's even asking her. After questioning the girl to find out where she got the jacket, Brian leaves the girl in pursuit of Kim to the house with the red door. Now we get this huge action sequence that involves a car chase and inevitably ends up in an explosion, but we never find out what happens to that girl. She was just left behind and probably continued to be used as a commodity. It's just sad, man. When Brian reaches the house with the red door, I wasn't prepared at all for the nightmare feel that I was about to receive. The house with the red door turns out to be the hideout of Marco. He's the antagonist of the movie and the head of the trafficking ring. We get to see Liam Neeson smash his head in for a bit, which is always nice, but the scene's accompanied by something that's just dark and shattering to see for the viewer. Once the villains have been dispatched, Brian begins to search this scummy little house. Every bedroom that he enters, there's a girl lying there, handcuffed so that they can't escape. But honestly, I feel like this level of restraint is completely unnecessary. The girls are absolutely brain dead on heroin. Their eyes are rolling at the backs of their heads, and you can see so many track marks in their arms. This is the stomach-churning reality of the sex trade. The girls are addicted to drugs on purpose, as leverage and an insurance policy so that they won't try and escape. And Brian then goes into the last room. He turns the girl over, and it's Amanda, Kim's best friend, who she started this trip to Europe with. Her eyes are wide open, empty, lifeless. She's overdosed and she's dead. The scene is brutal, and I can guarantee it hit really close to home for Brian. The film carries on, there's more explosions, bad guys die, and Kim is finally rescued. But everyone, let's not get caught up in the action, the Hollywood drama, the fact that one man took on an entire country to get his daughter back. As inspiring as that is, this is not reality of the human trafficking industry. This is reality, and it's happening every single day. I'm going to leave some links in the description for anyone who's been affected by human trafficking, wants to report an incident, or simply needs some support. Stay safe, everyone. I've been Hugh from Unleash the Ghouls, and I'll see you later.